Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how I transferred the measurements from my client onto the fabric for the prom dress. So if you're interested, just keep watching. Okay, so this is the fabric that we're going to be working with. It's a two-way stretch silver sequin fabric on stretch velvet. That's so hard to say. Yeah, and I got 5 or 6 yards worth of fabric just to be on the safe side, because I know my clients like those big trains, so I have to have as much fabric for the bottom as possible. So I fold my fabric in half and lay it down on the floor where the two-way stretch is going left and right instead of up and down. And then I lay my pattern piece down and I get my measurements ready. I normally start with the skirt, like the bottom part of the dress first. So I go from the waist down. So her waist measurements were 29 inches. So I will put the end of the measuring tape at 29 inches and make a crease at, I think it's going to be 14 and a half. And that's basically just chopping her waist measurements in half so you can lay that down on the fabric. And you're going to do half of that, which is going to be like, 7 1/4. That's what you're going to make sure is in the middle of the pattern piece. So once you place that in the center of the pattern piece, whatever amount is left on the beginning end of the measuring tape, in this case it was 1 inch, I will put a pin where 1 inch lays. And then on the other side, I would do the same thing. I would put a pin where the inch lays. And then I'll continue. Right? I hope that's making sense. And then I'll go ahead and I'll take her hip measurements, which is 37. Half of that is going to be 18 and a half. And then half of that, which is going to be placed in the middle of the pattern piece, is going to be 9 and 1/4 or something. I will lay that down on the pattern piece. And again, whatever is left on the beginning end of the measuring tape, this time it was 1/2 inch. I will put a pin at 1/2 inch on both sides. Then I would do around her knee. The same thing. It's like a continuous cycle. The same thing you do for the waist, you'll do for the hip and around the knee. And then after you're done with that, you'll place her measurement from her waist to her knee, and then her knee to the floor. And once you get those pins marked, you can get an idea of how much extra fabric you could need for the rest of her train. Leaving enough, because this is a mermaid style, you would have to leave enough fabric for the back piece of your top and 2 go days on the fold. And if you can't do it on the fold, you can just put a seam down the middle of the 2 other pieces, and it's basically the same thing. And so once I have the top part of the skirt cut and I get to the knee to the floor pin at the bottom, I measure out on both sides the same amount before I continue cutting, so I know where my placements are. And then I'll cut to those pins on both sides, and then I'll cut down the middle and kind of like a parenthesis shape. I don't cut straight across. I cut at an angle. Okay, so at this point, you have enough to start sewing. And so you'll go to the machine and sew from the waist to the knee on both sides. And right here, I'm just measuring from the knee all the way to the bottom of the skirt, because you're going to need this measurement to know how long your go day pieces have to be. And so once you have both sides sewn to the knee, what I like to do is I like to take the dress and go ahead and put it on the mannequin so I can get an idea of what we're looking at. And I cut my go day pieces out. I pin them to the dress while it's on the mannequin, so I can make sure that all of the sides are lining up. So this is the fabric that I had left over after I cut the skirt part out of the dress. So I'm going to lay the pattern piece down and take the measurements that I took from the dress and put them on this fabric and put a pin down to how long it needs to be. And then I'll cut that shape out. Then I'll take the piece that I just cut out and I'll place it on top of the other piece of fabric so I can cut out the same exact piece. So now that you have your pieces cut out, you literally just start from the knee and pin it in place so you can get ready to sew it down. And once you start sewing your pieces in, it should start to look a little bit more full like this. And so this is where I'm going to stop this video. I'm going to make another video on how I finish the top bodice and put the applique on. So if you're interested in seeing that, then follow me to the next part.